Welcome back. Colonel Grant Newsham, United States Marine Corps, is in the house virtually. We're always delighted to have a chance to visit with him and tap his brains about what the Chinese are making of America's various postures, both diplomatic and military at the moment, especially as it relates to deterring aggression of the kind that their friends, the Russians, have perpetrated in Ukraine not so long ago. And Grant, I know in previous conversations with you, you've been giving a lot of thought to this problem of how do we prevent China from having its way with Taiwan. General Wei made it very clear they will uh, wage war for it. Um, there is this question of whether or not, though, they are determined to invade it, at least initially, or whether they will seek simply to reduce it, ensuring that they can take it without essentially the kind of potentially quite messy fight that might otherwise be involved. Give us your current sense of what the Chinese thinking is on it, and most especially on what we should be doing to anticipate and properly respond.
Well, the Chinese have a couple options, and they know it just as well as anybody does. And you've mentioned two. One is to have a blockade Taiwan and tell the Americans to stand clear. The other is to go all out with a military assault. Uh, which one will they use? I don't know. But they would like to get Taiwan at the lowest cost and as easy as possible. So they've been ratcheting up the pressure gradually. And they will make their move, I think, within a fairly short time. And what does short time mean? I would suggest after 2003 starts that anything goes. And uh, so the
2023.
23, yes, that's
Yeah,
right. Yeah, so
right, right.
just after a year. So, but
So
either
well
of
on the
those,
other side of Xi's coronation
mhm.
expected at the party congress, that you won't
it,
risk anything
mhm.
between now and then.
I don't think so.
Hmm.
But I think the American midterm elections are going to be a particular sort of decision point for them. Particularly, they're going to look and see if the United States is in chaos. They're going to look. Would we have inflation going through the roof? High gas prices. Uh, are we at each other's throats? Are our finances still a mess? And do we look distracted? And they're going to look at all those things, and I think before making a decision of what to do, and Taiwan is watching that as well. Uh, so we could see, so as you say, the blockade or even an actual attack, and I think they're willing to do either one of those. And they think they have the capability, and they think we're weak enough now that we either cannot do something, or if we do, won't be enough, or that we don't have the will. And there's a
Yes.
psychological aspect that I think they're really focusing on.
Well, and I think this is where, as we've talked about before with you and many of our other guests, the calculations about Joe Biden's compromise by the Chinese Communist Party is doubtless a factor in those calculations as well. Grant, let me ask you, speaking of Taiwan, there have been reports out of China that the uh, necessity of preventing the advanced chip technology and manufacturing fabrication facilities from falling into the hands of the United States may be one of the things that prompts the Chinese to move rather more aggressively. They are, I think, under no illusion about how vital those production capabilities are for future industrial strength, as well as military, I mean, just commercial strength as well. What's your current sense of what the Chinese have in mind there? And what should we be doing uh, indeed to try to get those chip manufacturing facilities
Mhm.
out of the target set of the Chinese?
Mhm. Well, first, I think that Taiwan is attractive enough to the Chinese without the semiconductor uh, industry. I think that getting those intact would just be gravy to them. It's that important. But I used to work for Motorola actually a long time ago, back when we made semiconductors. There used to be an American semiconductor industry. It was given away, it was sort of divested of for no good reason. There's no reason America can't have uh, its own vibrant industry once again. Absolutely none. And all it takes is the desire to have it done. And that is where we should be paying some attention. It was ridiculous to put all of our eggs into this Taiwan basket. But the MBA class and the CFO class did their work again. But that was a mistake. So there's no reason we can't do it again. But what you need to do really when you think of Taiwan is you've got to convince the other side the cost is too high. Uh, and that requires us first to get our own domestic house in order. And that is a prerequisite. There is no sort of combination of things you can do with our military or with partners that's going to deter China otherwise, unless we get our finances in order, our politics in order, just the economy under control, that we're going to have a very hard time. And the U.S. military, could it take on China right now? Maybe for a few more years, it could at least give a decent account of itself. But the
Mm,
trend is not in the right direction.
yeah. Grant, one of the things that we've visited with you about, and again, others, is if you are right that the trend is in the direction of conflict with China, the prospect that we are going to continue to put American investment into China, including that of men and women in uniform through their federal thrift savings plan retirement funds, is insane. I think there's no other way to describe it. And yet, we seem to be, as ever, intent on continuing to underwrite the buildup of the mortal capabilities of the Chinese Communist Party for unrestricted warfare. And your personal anecdote about Motorola and the takedown of our semiconductor industry is a perfect example, and telecommunications, cell phones, and so on, of course, as well. Um, but in addition, that's bad enough. But in addition, these days, some of that money is unquestionably going into building up the military might of the Chinese as well. So, for all these reasons, I guess I would just ask you to summarize, what must we be doing to change this dynamic from one of willful blindness about the nature of our enemy and a continuing willingness to help make them more dangerous?
Well, first you're going to have to admit that these people are out to hurt us,
Yeah.
and if that's where everything starts. And then you are going to have to address the financial end of it. And if we're still around 500 years from now, people are going to write about this era and say, "What on earth were those people thinking? They were completely nuts." You use the word insane. That's right. You do not fund a regime like this, and there is no reason for it, and there is certainly no moral reason either for doing it. So we've got to get that under control. We do have, and one thing we can do immediately is we've got to start treating Taiwan like a friend instead of ignoring them. We say, yeah, we love you, but we don't want to be seen in public with you. We have got to actually show that we actually are willing to take some chances on Taiwan's behalf. And that's
Good place to
also a
be doing that
yeah.
seems to me to be at RIMPAC, the Rim of the Pacific exercise, but alas, they are being again left out. Grant Newsham, we have to leave it at that for the moment. Thank you for your time today. Come back to us with updates soon, if you would, my friend. Next up, we'll speak with Peter Husey about nuclear warfighting. Doctrine, are we thinking the unthinkable? Right after this.